The slaughter was already over when Nethry Vaughn realized the human guns had stopped on purpose. Ravelin Crossing had become a graveyard of drifting metal. Evacuation transports spun slowly through clouds of frozen coolant. Escape pods blinked weak distress lights between shattered cargo frames. The white and gold markings of the Linkari civilian corridor were still visible on several hull fragments, bright against black space, absurdly clean beside scorched armor. On Nethry's tactical display, the Orcs strike group was withdrawing. Their ships were not highlighted red. They were not highlighted at all. Blank contacts. Protected contacts. Untargetable. Nethry stood behind Commodore Jun Seo on the bridge of the human escort cruiser Resolute Path and watched the humans obey the law while their rescue crews pulled bodies from wreckage. The Orcs had transmitted formal disengagement. Under the accord of protected withdrawal, any vessel declaring surrender or withdrawal from active combat lost hostile status unless it fired again. The system was ancient, respected across dozens of civilizations. The Orcs had learned how to turn it into a weapon. They had transmitted disengagement. Human targeting systems had immediately removed them from valid firing solutions. Then concealed missile cells opened. The missiles had not been aimed at human warships. They had gone into the evacuation column. By the time human crews confirmed the attack had continued after the surrender signal, the Orcs had fired again, scattered their launchers, renewed the protected code, and begun retreating toward neutral space. They had repeated the trick until the convoy was broken. Now they were leaving, and human guns remained silent. Nethry had spent her career believing silence like this was what civilization looked like. She had never imagined it could feel obscene. A rescue operator spoke quietly from one of the lower stations. Another transport section located. Nobody answered immediately. Nethry saw Commodore Seo's shoulders tighten. Survivors. A pause. Searching. The Orcs formation moved farther away. Their blank symbols drifted across the tactical sphere. Untouchable. The bridge crew could see them. The guns could track them. The software could calculate how to kill them. Yet the firing controls rejected every solution. Protected status. Nethry swallowed. Her people had helped write portions of the accord. Not the original text. The agreement was older than the Vaughn legal traditions themselves, but generations of treaty observers had defended its principle. Someone had to be able to stop fighting. Someone had to know that surrender would be honored. Without that certainty, every conflict became extermination. She still believed that. She needed to believe it. But below the bridge, human medics were opening wrecked Linkari evacuation compartments one by one. The dead had trusted the same law. Commander Vask Oren had understood the law better than they had. Commodore, Nethry said. Seo did not turn. Yes. As treaty observer, I am required to advise that pursuit beyond the Ravelin jurisdiction line would require authorization from the Neutral Arbitration Office. I know. An engagement against a protected withdrawal group would constitute a major violation. I know that too. Nethry hesitated. Seo finally looked at her. The human woman's face was almost expressionless. That frightened Nethry more than rage would have. Behind them, another rescue message arrived. No survivors in that section. Seo looked back toward the tactical display. Send the request to Earth. Nethry's throat tightened. What request? Authority to continue. The words were quiet. No threat. No oath. No promise of vengeance. Just a request to continue. Nethry moved toward the diplomatic console. The report had already been transmitted. Evidence packets, weapon telemetry, protected status logs, rescue estimates, Oryx broadcast codes. Everything required for formal judgment. Normally, Earth would forward the record to neutral authorities. Lawyers would argue jurisdiction. Investigators would secure evidence. Warrants would be issued. Governments would demand extradition. Time would pass. That was intentional. Civilization inserted time between grief and punishment. Time cooled anger. Time gave law a chance to speak. Nethri had taught that principle to cadets. Now, staring at the wreckage of Ravelin Crossing, she wondered what happened when an enemy planned its crimes around that cooling period. A signal arrived from Earth. Not from a military command. From the civilian planetary authority itself. The bridge went silent. The transmission contained no anthem. No speech. No images of leaders. One line appeared on every human tactical station. Then a second line followed with authentication codes. Nethri read the first aloud before she realized she was speaking. Civilized restraint ends here. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then every Oryx vessel on the tactical sphere turned red. Valid hostile contacts. The bridge crew did not cheer. That unsettled Nethri almost as much as the declaration. Commodore Seo stood. Navigation. Ready. Maintain pursuit. Course set. Weapons. Tracking. Do not fire into neutral traffic. Do not engage escape craft. Do not target any vessel that fully powers down weapons and submits to boarding. Nethri looked at her sharply. Seo continued. Orin's formation remains hostile until the threat is actually over. The cruiser accelerated. Behind them, rescue ships stayed with the dead. Ahead, the Oryx crossed the Ravelin boundary. The humans followed. Commander Vask Orin reached the central commercial corridor, expecting the pursuit to end. Every military doctrine Nethri had studied said it should. The central system was neutral. Its central station served traders, pilgrims, freight carriers, medical convoys, and governments that had no involvement in the war. No civilized commander brought a battle there. Orin's ships entered among hundreds of civilian contacts and reduced speed. The human squadron emerged hours later and stopped outside the traffic lanes. Nethri watched Jun Seo refuse the simplest possible attack. Orin's formation was exposed. Human missile range could reach it. A concentrated volley might end the pursuit immediately. It would also risk civilian vessels around the Oryx formation. Seo did not fire. She did not withdraw either. The humans simply remained. Waiting. Watching. Tracking. At first, Nethri assumed this was diplomacy. Then the first Oryx tanker attempted to approach Commander Orin's flagship. A human destroyer shifted position. No weapons fired. The tanker stopped. A second supply vessel tried from another vector. Another human ship moved. Again, no shot. Again, the tanker withdrew. Nethri stared at the tactical display. You're blockading him. Seo sat with a cup of something dark and bitter beside her command station. No. You're preventing resupply. We're remaining in position. That is effectively the same thing. Not to the neutral ships. They can go anywhere they want. Except to Orin. They can go to him. Seo took a drink. If they want to become part of an active hostile formation. Nethri looked toward the civilian contacts. Nobody approached Orin. Hours passed. The humans rotated shifts. That was the first thing Nethri noticed. Not the weapons. The chairs. One officer stood, another sat. One pilot left, another replaced her. Engineering crews moved through the vessel in scheduled teams. Food was carried to stations. Sleep cycles continued. Maintenance drones worked along the outer hull while the formation held position. Nobody behaved like a crew driven by rage. They behaved like people performing a task they expected to continue. Orin transmitted first. "This is Commander Vask Orin of the Oryx Mandate. Human vessels are violating neutral transit protections. Withdraw immediately." Sio listened, then muted the channel. Nethri waited. "You're not responding." "Not yet. He is formally protesting your presence. We're allowed to be present. You know what he means." Sio looked at the tactical sphere. "Yes." Another hour passed. Orin moved. The instant his ships left the civilian cluster, the human formation moved with them. No acceleration burst. No desperate attack. No emotional chase. Just motion. Nethri felt the first crack in what she thought she understood. Orin had expected the neutral system to reset the conflict. The humans had treated it as a pause in geography, not a pause in purpose. They followed him into deep space, then through another jurisdiction, then another. Every time Orin reached a place where civilized warfare was supposed to slow down, the humans arrived and waited. Not recklessly, not impatiently. They simply refused to go away. Oryx ships began showing maintenance failures. Their formation became uneven. A frigate dropped from the group after an engine fault. Sio's weapons officer looked over. Target isolated. Nethri stiffened. The frigate's weapons were active. It was valid. "Hold," Sio said. The weapons officer did not argue. A moment later, the frigate transmitted a surrender request. Its weapon systems powered down. Its red tactical outline vanished. Blank. Nethri leaned forward. Human weapons immediately moved away from it. "Boarding team," Sio said. "Medical first." Nethri turned toward her. "That quickly?" Sio seemed confused. "They surrendered. Your declaration was about Orin using protected status while continuing to attack. But Earth said civilized restraint ends here." "Yes." Nethri waited for more. None came. Below them, human boarding craft moved toward the surrendered Oryx frigate. The blank target marker remained untouched. The next false surrender came before the second sleep cycle. Orin transmitted the formal code. Nethri knew the sequence by memory. Declaration of disengagement. Cessation of hostilities. Request for protected withdrawal. The tactical system acknowledged the signal. But Orin's ships remained red. He sent it again. Still red. A third time. Still red. Nethri turned to the legal console. "That should have cleared them." "It didn't," Sio said. "The protocol is automatic." "It used to be." Nethri felt cold. "What did Earth change?" Sio looked at her. "Read the directive." Nethri already had. At least she thought she had. The declaration had been followed by pages of authorization language, operational definitions, evidence requirements, jurisdiction provisions. She had skimmed them under the assumption that the headline mattered more. Now she opened the document again. She read carefully. Her eyes slowed. The directive did not repeal protected surrender. It did not suspend civilian immunity. It did not authorize attacks on neutral territory. It did not remove medical protections. It did not even revoke the accord. It created one new classification. A military force that had used protected disengagement status as part of an active attack could not regain automatic immunity through another signal alone. Hostile status remained until the force demonstrated actual cessation. Weapons powered down. Targeting systems disabled. Captives released. Combat posture abandoned. Boarding permitted. The burden had shifted from words to evidence. Nethri read the paragraph twice, then a third time. You didn't end civilized restraint. Sio's gaze stayed on Oren's formation. No. You ended automatic recognition. We ended his ability to say a word and make us pretend he stopped. Nethri looked at the human crew. Nobody seemed surprised by this. She had heard the declaration and imagined ancient instincts breaking loose. The humans had heard it and received a procedural update. A terrible one. A consequential one. But still a rule. Oren transmitted on an open channel. You expose yourselves. The galaxy sees what you are now. Predators pretending at law until law becomes inconvenient. Junseo finally answered. We accepted the surrender of one of your frigates. They were cowards. They shut down their weapons. They abandoned their duty. They stopped fighting. Oren's voice sharpened. And you believe that distinction matters? Yes. Sio closed the channel. Nethri stared at her. That was all. No speech about humanity. No history. No warning. Just yes. The pursuit continued. Oren tried every assumption his doctrine gave him. He increased speed. The humans followed. He scattered decoys. The humans identified the real drives. He divided his formation. The humans divided theirs. He raced for repair infrastructure. Human ships arrived before repairs could be completed. He expected the pursuit squadron to exhaust itself. Instead, supply craft met it in motion. Crew rotations continued. Damaged human vessels detached while replacements arrived. The objective did not change when the personnel did. That disturbed Nethri more than any weapon. She had always believed violence was sustained by emotion. Anger rose. Anger burned. Anger faded. Human anger had certainly existed at Ravelin. She had seen it in the silence of the bridge. But the pursuit no longer required it. It had become administration. A mission. A line that had not yet reached its endpoint. Oryx's doctrine had no answer for that. Their fleets were built around battles. Mobilize. Engage. Withdraw. Repair. Negotiate. Recalculate. Every stage assumed separation between one act of war and the next. Humans had erased the separation. Not with technology. With scheduling. Fuel. Spare crews. Repair tenders. Sleep. Meals. Relief ships. Boring things. Civilization's enemies, Nethri realized, had spent centuries studying human weapons and almost no time studying human logistics. The Oryx formation began to fracture. One destroyer transmitted a genuine surrender. Its guns shut down. Blank. Another followed. Blank. Then a support carrier. Blank. Each time human forces approached carefully. Each time survivors were transferred. Each time surrendered crews were fed, treated, disarmed, and detained. Oren began broadcasting warnings to his own captains. Humanity would execute them. Humanity would dissect them. Humanity would ignore surrender. The captured Oryx crews began transmitting back. Alive. Safe. Angry certainly. Prisoners unquestionably. But alive. Oren jammed them. More ships deserted his formation anyway. Nethri stood beside Sio as another Oryx contact disappeared from Red. What happens to them? Tribunal. Human tribunal. Joint jurisdiction if the neutral authorities accept the evidence. And if they do, they remain prisoners. You won't execute them. Sio turned toward her. Did they participate at Ravelin? Some of them may have. Then evidence decides what happens. Nethry's mouth tightened. You know the galaxy expected something else after Earth's declaration. I know. Did Earth know? Sio looked back toward the tactical display. Probably. Then why phrase it that way? For the first time, something like exhaustion appeared on Sio's face. Because restraint had become a performance, we were expected to maintain even while people used it to kill those under our protection. Nethry waited. Sio shook her head. That's enough philosophy for one watch. And that was the most she ever said about it. Oren's last refuge was a convoy. Not a military convoy. Civilian. Freighters from systems uninvolved in the conflict were crossing the Iller Passage when Oren accelerated directly into their formation. His remaining warships spread among them. Nethry felt sick. He's doing it again. Sio's jaw tightened. The firing solutions disappeared behind civilian probability warnings. Oren transmitted immediately. Human commander. Continue pursuit, and you prove every accusation I have made. Nethry expected Sio to answer. She didn't. The human squadron reduced speed. Oren stayed hidden among the freighters. Hours passed. The freighters changed course. So did Oren. The humans followed at distance. Nethry understood before Oren did. Sio did not need to attack. She only needed to remain. The civilian captains began transmitting protests to the Oryx ships. They had schedules, contracts, families, cargo deadlines. They had no intention of becoming mobile shields. One by one, they altered course. Oren tried to remain among them. The freighters scattered. Some cut drives entirely. Others reversed course. A massive agricultural hauler broadcast a threat to ram an Oryx escort if it continued matching velocity. Nethry almost laughed. Oren's formation was exposed again. Fire, asked the weapons officer. Sio studied the geometry. Not yet. Nethry looked at the display. The civilian convoy was almost clear. Almost. A single freighter remained close to Oren's flagship. Why wait? Escape craft. Nethry magnified the view. Small civilian pods were launching from the freighter. Oren had trapped it. The humans waited. The pods moved away. The freighter drifted clear. Only then did Sio speak. Now. Human ships fired. The attack was brief. Precise. One Oryx escort lost engines. Another lost weapons. A third tried to turn and was struck across its drive section. Nobody cheered. Oren fled again. This time only his flagship and a handful of escorts remained. And ahead of him there was no sanctuary. Only open space. Nethry knew the pursuit was ending when the Oryx ships stopped trying to reach anywhere. They turned. The final formation faced the humans in empty dark. No stations. No civilians. No borders close enough to matter. Oren transmitted the surrender code. The tactical contact stayed red. Again. He repeated it. Still red. Then his voice came over the open channel. You have become exactly what we warned the galaxy you were. Sio sat motionless. Oren continued. You reject surrender. You pursue beyond custom. You abandon restraint and call it justice. CO opened the channel. Power down your weapons. We have surrendered. Power down your weapons. You have received the recognized code. Release the civilian craft in your hangars. Silence. Nethri looked at the sensor board. There were life signs aboard several small captured vessels. Orin had taken them during the Ravelin attack. Open your command network to boarding lockout, CO continued. Disengage targeting, shut missile cells, release prisoners. You demand humiliation. I require evidence that you stopped fighting. Orin laughed. It was a harsh sound. And then you kill us. No. You expect me to believe that? No. CO closed the channel. Nethri stared. You don't care if he believes you. He doesn't need to. What does he need? To choose. The human formation continued forward. Not firing. Closing. Orin's weapons remained hot. So did the human ones. Distance dropped. Nethri's legal training screamed at her that this was coercion. Her memory of Ravelin answered that ritual without reality had already killed enough people. An Oryx escort suddenly broke formation. Its weapons powered down. Blank. A second followed. Blank. Orin ordered them back. They ignored him. More ships shut down. Blank. Soon only the flagship remained red. Alone. Nethri watched its target icon pulse. For the first time since the pursuit began, she understood the symbol completely. It was not punishment. It was a question. Are you still dangerous? Orin transmitted again. His voice had changed. Not repentant. Not humbled. Cornered. You will guarantee the survival of my crew. CO answered. If they cease hostile action. You will not fire after shutdown. No. You will take us prisoner. Yes. You will try me. If evidence supports charges. There is no mercy in that. Juncio looked at the red icon. There is survival. Orin said nothing for a long time. Then the flagship's forward batteries cooled. Missile doors sealed. Targeting emissions vanished. The captured civilian vessels detached. One by one, their engines ignited and carried them away from the Oryx ship. Boarding ports opened. The command network exposed itself to external lockout. The last weapon system powered down. On Nethri's tactical display, the red outline vanished. Blank. The bridge became perfectly silent. The human weapons officer looked toward CO. Target status cleared. CO leaned back. Stand down. Across the squadron, weapons rotated away. Missile guidance dropped. Firing capacitor discharged harmlessly into internal sinks. The human stopped. Immediately. No final shot. No punishment volley. No accidental delay. The pursuit that had crossed jurisdiction after jurisdiction, outlasted crews, broken Oryx logistics, ignored false surrender, and terrified half the governments watching it. Stopped the instant the threat actually ended. Nethri stared at the blank contact. For most of her life, she had believed restraint came from rules strong enough to hold violence back. At Ravelin, those rules had failed because one side had learned to imitate obedience. Earth had responded with words that sounded like the death of civilization. Civilized restraint ends here. Nethri finally understood what had ended. Not mercy. Not law. Not surrender. The assumption that humanity could be ordered to offer protection regardless of what the other side did with it. Boarding craft crossed the darkness toward Vask Orin's flagship. Human Marines would take him alive. There would be evidence. Hearings. Arguments. Judgment. Time would return now. The cooling period Nethri had always believed civilization required could begin again, because the killing had actually stopped. Beside her, Commodore Junseo removed her headset. No celebration followed. Around the bridge, exhausted humans stood from their stations and gave their places to the next watch. The war was not over. Ravelin was not repaired. The dead were still dead. Nothing about the ending felt triumphant. Nethri looked once more at Orin's ship. Blank. Protected. This time, the symbol meant what it claimed to mean. And human guns remained silent because humans had chosen silence. Not because anyone had forced them to. Not because a treaty box had disabled the trigger. Because there was no longer anything left to shoot. For the first time since Ravelin Crossing, Nethri looked at an untargetable ship and did not feel ashamed of civilization. The target stayed blank. The humans let it.